Chapter 3951. Oh? Is it that powerful? Wang Xian's eyes lit up when he heard this. If there was such a forbidden curse art, it would be of great use to the Dragon Palace. This was especially true for the mystical dragons of the Dragon Palace. Currently, every member of the Dragon Clan had a black flower of the other shore. The black flower of the other shore had an ability, Permitha Samsara. After using the forbidden curse art, one could use Permitha Samsara to return one's body to the past. In other words, Permitha Samsara could eliminate the injuries sustained during the forbidden curse art. This would greatly enhance the strength of the phantom dragons. Of course, but this forbidden curse art cannot be used recklessly. After using it once, it can only be used again after hundreds of thousands of years. Long Yinan said. Wang Xian nodded, not minding this. With Permitha Samsara, this side effect could be eliminated in an instant. I'll ask the seniors of the Dragon Clan again to see what treasures they can give you. Long Yinan saw that Wang Xian did not refuse and was even interested. Wang Xian nodded with a smile and sat cross-legged to the side. At the same time, Long Yinan immediately contacted her parents and grandfather. Long Yinan and her brother were able to become the saint son and saint daughter of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground for two reasons. Another reason was that their great-grandfather was the founder of the Dragon Clan. Now, their great-grandfather was no longer the master of the Forbidden Ground, but the one who took over the position was a disciple of their great-grandfather. In the Dragon Clan, their great-grandfather was still the #1 expert. One could imagine the status of the Long family in the Dragon Clan. And her father, who was also her grandfather, was also in the ruler realm, the top expert in the Forbidden Ground. After Long Yinan passed the news, it immediately attracted the attention of the Dragon Clan. Now, the news of Wang Xian had spread to all the sacred grounds and forbidden grounds around the Moon Void. The sacred grounds and forbidden grounds were also shocked by the sudden appearance of this demon-like youth. There were also some forbidden grounds and sacred grounds that were prepared to recruit Wang Xian. In particular, Wang Xian was the most promising one to reach the top of the Moon Pagoda and control the sacred moon. Seeing that their saintess had been saved twice by the mysterious youth and that their relationship was not bad, the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground naturally could not be stingy when inviting him to join their forbidden ground. It didn't take long for Long Yinan to receive a list of treasures. When she saw it, her eyes flickered. What's your name? We, the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land, have taken out some treasures. You can choose any 3 of them. What do you think? Long Yinan looked at Wang Xian and greeted. Just call me Wang Xian. What items do you have? Let me see. Wang Xian nodded his head and asked with interest. If there were items that he was satisfied with, Wang Xian would really consider joining them. However, even if he were to join, Wang Xian would make his own requests. Here, I'll use my energy to condense words for you. Let me introduce them to you. Long Yinan waved his arm and the names of the items appeared in front of Wang Xian. There were a total of more than 20 items. Moreover, all of them had spatial attributes or were treasures that were useful. The first item, Heavenly Human Fruit. This fruit is a life-saving fruit. It's equivalent to a life. As long as you place the heavenly human fruit in a safe place, even if you die, you can be revived immediately. How about it? Is this valuable enough? Long Yinan introduced the first item and smiled at him. Continue. Wang Xian nodded his head. He had no interest in the heavenly human fruit. The second item, an inborn cardinal treasure weapon with spatial attributes. Long Yinan continued. Remove the weapon. I don't need elixir pills either. Are there any special items? I want special ones. Wang Xian interrupted her and asked. This? Special? What my grandfather prepared for you is something that you can use. If it's special, there's nothing special about it. Does cultivating in the core treasure land of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground count? Long Yinan opened her mouth and asked. Wang Xian shook his head. I don't need weapons and resources for cultivation. I'll only agree if there are special items that I need. All right then, I'll continue asking for you. Long Yinan nodded her head and continued to send messages to her grandfather. Do you have any items that you need? We'll try our best to satisfy you. Long Yining lifted her head and asked Wang Xian. Items that I need? What's the realm of the strongest expert in the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground? Wang Xian asked. The strongest expert is naturally my grandfather, the founder of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground. He reached the Ninth Order Universe Sovereign Realm 10 billion years ago. I don't know if he has broken through now. Long Yining answered proudly. Forget it then. Just take out the special treasures and let me have a look. Wang Xian shook his head. The strength of a Ninth Order Universe Sovereign was not even on par with him. If the Roaring Dragon Holy Ground was really strong and had many Pinnacle Universe Sovereigns, Wang Xian could ask for a large amount of resources. He could use these resources to enhance his own strength. However, the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground could not afford so many resources for a Ninth Order Universe Sovereign. Long Yining pouted speechlessly. She looked at him and said, "All right then, let me see what special treasures my grandfather has." After she finished speaking, she waited quietly for her grandfather's reply. Benefactor Wang Xian, my grandfather sent me 5 special items. Let me tell you about them. After a few hours, Long Yining spoke to Wang Xian. Tell me. Wang Xian opened his eyes and said to her. The first item is broken wood. Legend has it that broken wood is a small fragment of the spatial bridge. The spatial bridge is a very powerful spatial treasure that ordinary inborn cardinal treasures can't compare to. In short, it's very, very powerful. However, it's useless now. Long Yining introduced the first item and stole a glance at Wang Xian. The second item is a corpse, a strange soul corpse. My grandfather said it's the body of an extraordinary human from another universe. The third item is a jar. The space is huge, almost infinite. However, it can't contain living things. The fourth item is a treasure from another universe. It's a very special treasure, but its specific abilities are unknown. The fifth item is the breath soil of the universe, which is the breath soil of our universe. This breath soil can be molded into a human and given life. In other words, it can be used to create humans. I think it's very practical and can be used to groom one's subordinates. The humans molded by the breath soil are as malleable as normal humans. Their talents are also different. Another special feature is that the breath soil is very beneficial to cultivators with wood attributes. Long Yining introduced the items one by one. Chapter 3952. A piece of broken wood. A corpse. A spatial container. A treasure from another universe. The breath soil of this universe. Breath soil of the universe? What does it mean to make wood-type mages closer to the universe? Wang Xian narrowed his eyes as he listened to Long Yining's introduction of the treasures. He asked as his attention fell on the last treasure. It means to better sense the energy in our universe. But it's only more effective for wood-type mages. Long Yining said, You mean to say that as long as I integrate the breath soil of the universe into my body, I'll be closer to the universe of swords and magic? Wang Xian stared at him, his eyes shining. That's what I mean. Long Yining nodded. How much breath soil of the universe do you have? Wang Xian asked again. Should be quite a lot. The most special thing about this breath soil of the universe is that it's special. It doesn't have any other abilities. Long Yining said, What's the level of the corpse? Wang Xian asked again. I don't know the rank of this corpse, but I heard from my grandfather that even a corpse would give him a huge pressure. My grandfather is an 8th Order Universe Sovereign Realm expert. This corpse is definitely stronger than an 8th Order Universe Sovereign Realm expert when it was alive. Long Yining said, Is there a lot of breath soil of the universe on the continent? Wang Xian continued asking. Not much. There's very little breath soil of the universe. As far as I know, only the strongest 1 or 2 forbidden grounds have it. Only our Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground has it. Long Yining answered truthfully. Wang Xian squinted his eyes and looked at Long Yining. I can join the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground, but I want a lot of breath soil of the universe as well as that corpse. I'll decide after I see the last treasure. Really? You're willing to join our Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground? Long Yining asked with surprise. Wang Xian nodded. I can join, but I have a condition. When the calamity comes, I'll leave the dragon roar forbidden ground. When the calamity comes, you'll leave the dragon roar forbidden ground. Long Yining was slightly taken aback when he heard Wang Xian's condition. His face was filled with astonishment. He did not expect Wang Xian to make such a request. Wang Xian nodded his head. I'll leave after the cataclysm arrives. However, I won't say that I'm just going to occupy the resources of Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land without making any contributions. I have all the top-notch spells and sword techniques in the Lunar Void Forbidden Land. I also have the magical legacy of a level 7 universe lord with water attributes. I can give them to Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land as contributions. Really? When Long Yining heard these words, his eyes lit up again. She knew about the cataclysm. After the cataclysm arrived, they would leave immediately. This was something that would happen billions of years later. The cataclysm was a crisis for the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land and the entire universe. The Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land naturally did not want the experts they had nurtured to leave before the cataclysm. However, compared to this requirement, compared to being able to obtain all the spells and sword technique manuals of the Forbidden Moon of the Void, compared to the inheritance of a 7th-order universe sovereign, what did it count for? In fact, the inheritance of a 7th-order universe sovereign realm expert was enough to trade for her 3 items. The preciousness of a magic mantle was something that could not be obtained without a great opportunity. Even she did not receive the mantle of magic. In addition, there was the cultivation method of the Void Moon in the Forbidden Land. That made it even more precious. The strength of the Void Moon in the Forbidden Land was only slightly weaker than that of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land. Their secret manuals were also treasures that could protect the sect in the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land. Benefactor Wang Xian, you have to know that you are at a disadvantage. The things you are offering are too precious. Long Yining was excited for a few seconds. After hesitating for a moment, he reminded Wang Xian. It's all right. I naturally understand the value. Wang Xian smiled. Initially, he had joined the Roaring Dragon Holy Land mainly for the breath soil of the universe. Just as Long Yining had said, the breath soil of the universe could allow living beings to be closer to the universe. It could even create humans. In that case, what would happen if the disciples of the Dragon Palace absorbed enough breath soil of the universe? Would it allow the experts and disciples of the Dragon Palace to ignore the rejection of the sword and sorcery universe? If it was possible, it would definitely be a great benefit for the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian could allow the experts and disciples of the Dragon Palace to come here to cultivate and search for opportunities. At the very least, it could allow a portion of the experts and disciples of the Dragon Palace to cultivate in the Pagoda of the Moon. As for the Pagoda of the Moon, Wang Xian still had the confidence to control it. At that time, the Dragon Palace would also have a treasure land for cultivation. In addition, by joining the Forbidden Land, Wang Xian could also quickly integrate into the top level of the sword and sorcery universe and understand everything in this universe. Although he had the Soul Devourer ability with his current strength, he could only reach the level of an 8th-order sovereign in the Soul Devourer universe. After all, his current strength was mostly due to the Heaven Yuan creation fragment. Anyway, joining the Forbidden Land wouldn't interfere with his cultivation. That's great. I'll tell my grandfather now that you have joined the Forbidden Land. In the future, you will be a saint and my brother can play by the side. In addition, we will provide you with any cultivation resources you want. Long Yining said happily. Wang Xian smiled and looked at her. He waved his hand and said, "Go back first and get those special treasures. In addition, this is a water attribute magical mantle. I'll give it to you first. Why don't you go back with me? There are elders of the Forbidden Land outside the Pagoda of the Moon. Also, we can make a trip back to the Forbidden Land to get that treasure. At that time, I'll get my grandfather to give you more treasures." Long Yining's eyes sparkled as she said to Wang Xian. "Go back? Sure." Wang Xian nodded and didn't reject. His current strength had reached the pinnacle of the universe supremacy realm. What he needed to do now was to accumulate his strength. Just like Wu Sha and the rest in the past, only accumulating and not improving. At that time, He should be able to step into the top level of the pagoda of the moon and control it. However, to continue to the level of Wuxia and the rest, he would need a lot of time. About 1 or 2 million years. Therefore, Wang Xian wasn't in a hurry to wait for a day or two, or even a year or 10 years. Hee, alright, let's go. Long Yining said happily as she gestured to Wang Xian. Both of them moved and instantly disappeared from the 8th level. In the next moment, they appeared outside the pagoda of the moon. Follow me. Long Yining said happily as she led Wang Xian out. Wang Xian smiled and followed closely behind. The two of them flew out of the sacred moon. Saintess. The moment they flew out, many experts from the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land were already waiting at the entrance. Chapter 3953. Just as Wang Xian and the rest exited the sacred moon, dozens of experts welcomed them at the entrance. Universe ruler powerhouses bowed to Long Yining. Among these experts, the strongest was at the 4th Order Universe Sovereign Realm. Evidently, Long Yining's position in the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land was very high. Alright, let's go back to the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land first. Long Yining faced the experts in the forbidden area and nodded lightly, full of the aura of a saintess. Cold, proud, extraordinary temperament. It's the saintess. The group of experts from the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground nodded and immediately brought them to the side. Sister, wait for me, wait for me. At this moment, a voice came from behind. Wang Xian looked over and saw a young man who looked similar to Long Yining flying towards him. This was not the first time Wang Xian had met him. At the 7th level, Wang Xian had met Long Yining's younger brother. As for what it was called, he did not know. Sister, wait for me, let's go back together. The young man flew over with a cheeky smile on his face. When he looked at Wang Xian, his eyes lit up. Your big brother Wang Xian, right? Nice to meet you. You're really awesome. I'm impressed. He's my younger brother, Long Yinhao. He's very mischievous. Long Yining introduced. Hello. Wang Xian nodded his head. Let's go back home first. As Long Yining spoke, the surrounding experts quickly led them away. Flying to the side, there was a temporary base in the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground. There was a teleportation array there. After passing through the teleportation formation and going through 5 transfers, they arrived at the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land's lair. The Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground is on an island? When Wang Xian took note of his surroundings, he realized he was already on an island. All around them was the ocean. They were now on an island. And in front of this pirate was a strange island. On that island, there was an incomparably huge mountain. The mountain peak pierced through the clouds, reaching an extremely terrifying height. Furthermore, there was an incomparably enormous waterfall flowing down from above. It was a very spectacular place of wonder. The waterfall fell from the sky with an incomparably loud roar. However, this rumble was completely different from a dragon's roar. As for whether there were dragons in the Sword and Magic universe, Wang Xian knew from the information he obtained that there weren't any. Yeah, doesn't brother Wang Xian know that our Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground is in the Sky Sea? That's the sky peak of our Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land. Isn't it spectacular? We live and train there, said Long Yinhao. Come on, let's fly over. Long Yining said to Wang Xian as he gestured to the elders around him. The group of powerhouses and elders nodded, but they did not follow. Long Yining brought Wang Xian and flew towards the sky peak of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden area. The sky peak of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land was indeed quite spectacular. Compared to the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land, Ming-Yi Sacred Institute was like a weak ant. In this cosmos, the disparity between sacred grounds was extremely great. Wang Xian flew to the front of the sky peak and immediately sensed a majestic water energy. At the same time, he sensed that he had entered a special space. The defense around Heavenly Peak isn't bad. Wang Xian sensed the surroundings and thought to himself, at the very least, this defense could block existences in the 9th Order Universe Sovereign Realm. Come here. The sky peak is very high and huge. Let's head up. Long Yining continued to speak to Wang Xian as they flew towards the top of the sky peak. The sky peak was indeed very high. They only arrived at the top after a few minutes. Inninhao. A few hundred kilometers below the top of the sky peak. When they flew over, a voice was heard. Wang Xian looked over and saw 5 to 6 elders and over a dozen middle-aged men standing at the edge in front of them. All of their gazes fell on Wang Xian. Wang Xian could sense that streams of energy were sensing him. However, these energies did not have any malicious intent. Grandpa, elders, deacons, dad, mom. Long Yining and Long Yinhao shouted immediately. He good. Not bad. This is young Master Wang Xian. The elder in the middle smiled and nodded at the two of them, after which his gaze fell on Wang Xian. Thank you, young Master Wang Xian. You have saved my granddaughter's life twice. The Dragon Roar Forbidden Land is extremely grateful. Senior, it's just a simple matter for me. Wang Xian cupped his hands politely. With the strength of his current body, there was nothing wrong with addressing him as senior. Moreover, Long Yining's grandfather was definitely much older than Wang Xian. They were all people who had lived for at least 10 billion years. Saving your life isn't a small matter. Moreover, you are able to suppress the other saints and saintesses. Your talent and potential are limitless. Come, take a seat inside. Long Yining's grandfather smiled and gestured with his hand. Wang Xian nodded his head and flew inside. The location inside was not a luxurious palace. Instead, it was a cave surrounded by plants. Water flowed through it, and it was exceptionally beautiful. Wang Xian, the one in the middle, is my grandfather. These two are my parents. The rest are my second and third grandfathers. They are also the elders and deacons of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land. Long Yining came to Wang Xian's side and introduced him softly. Wang Xian nodded. Take a seat. Young master, your name is Wang Xian, right? I'll call you Xiao Xian. You are extremely talented. If the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land can have such a talented person join us, it will be our luck. When they came inside, the group sat down. Long Yining's grandfather said to Wang Xian with a smile. I heard that you like some special treasures. They are all in here. As he spoke, he tossed a space ring to Wang Xian. Thank you, elder. Wang Xian took it and greeted him as elder. We will be on the same side in the future. Yining has also mentioned your condition. The Dragon Roar Forbidden Land will naturally agree to it. Of course, we have benefited from you joining the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land this time. Long Yining's grandfather laughed and said, Joining the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land will be beneficial to my cultivation. Wang Xian replied politely. He sensed the space ring and realized that there were more than 3 treasures in it. The 5 items that Long Yining had mentioned were all inside. In particular, there was indeed a lot of the universe breath soil that he was most concerned about. The energy of the universe breath soil also excited him. The universe breath soil contained a large amount of sword and magic aura from the universe. Perhaps the living beings in this universe could not sense it, but Wang Xian could. It should not be a problem for the disciples and experts of the Dragon Palace to use it to resist the rejection of this universe. Chapter 3954. Xiao Xian, with your strength, you can definitely have the status and strength of a saint in our Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground. We will prepare a saint inauguration ceremony for you soon. Long Yining's grandfather, who was also the 3rd elder of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground, said with a smile as Wang Xian checked the treasures in the space ring. There's no need. Long Yinhao should be the saint. Wang Xian was taken aback, but he shook his head with a smile. In the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land, whoever has better talent and is stronger will be the son of the younger generation. Your talent and strength far surpass Yinhao's, so the position of the son of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land is well deserved. As the son of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land, you will naturally have a lot of rights and enjoy a lot more things. In the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground, the position of the saint is above the deacon and below the elder. Wang Xian was deep in thought when he heard the 3rd elder's words. Cough cough, Grandpa, I think we can have 2 saints in the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground, right? Big brother Wang Xian is the eldest, and I can be second. At the side, Long Yinhao coughed and said, That's not impossible. There are also sacred grounds and forbidden grounds that only have one saint. An elder smiled and said, "Isn't there 2 saints and saintesses in the twin sacred grounds? Although it has something to do with the characteristics of their sacred grounds, with Inhao's strength, he can be a saint." "That's fine, but we have to discuss this with the Lord of the Forbidden Ground." The third elder nodded and looked at Wang Xian. "Xiao Xian, you don't have to reject." "All right." Wang Xian hesitated for a moment before nodding. Since this was the body of a void divine dragon, he could be the saint of the roaring dragon forbidden ground. Alright. We'll hold a saint inauguration soon. The third elder smiled and nodded. In addition, I'll have to trouble old Six to bring Xiao Xian to the roaring dragon forbidden ground to have a look. Fortunately, it's the place where the saint lives. All right, third brother. The sixth elder nodded his head, stood up, and gestured to Wang Xian. Let's go, Xiao Xian. I'll bring you around the roaring dragon forbidden land. We'll come back for some food and enjoy some delicacies. Wang Xian smiled and nodded his head. He followed the sixth elder to familiarize himself with the dragon roar forbidden land. Sister, tell me the truth. Are you in a relationship with brother Wang Xian? Will he be my brother-in-law in the future? Wang Xian and the rest left. Long Yinhao couldn't help but look towards Long Yinin and ask, "What nonsense are you talking about?" His words caused Long Yinin's face to redden, and he glared at him. If the two of you didn't fall in love, how could there be such a good thing in the world? He gave you a 7th Order Universe Sovereign's water-attributed legacy, and it just so happened to be water-attributed? Also, there are the secret manuals in the Moon of the Void. The value of these things is not comparable to the position of a saint or some special items. Moreover, he saved you twice. I think that brother Wang Xian is definitely interested in you. I think he's not bad. Sister, you can consider him. That's not right. Perhaps you and Wang Xian. After all, the two of you spent a long time alone on the 7th level. Long Yinhao guessed as if he already knew the truth. This made Long Yinin's face turn darker and darker. She stared at him, and the magic staff in her hand shone brightly. Alrighty. We won't get involved in your matters. You can choose for yourself. Long Yinin's mother chuckled and said from the side, Mom, there's really nothing going on between me and Wang Xian. When I first invited him, he rejected me. Long Yinin explained to her mother. Alright, no matter what happens, we won't interfere with your matters. Have the secret manuals in the Moon of the Void been given to you? Long Yinin's mother smiled and asked. Long Yinin nodded her head. With a wave of her arm, books flew towards her grandfather. Several elders of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land waved their arms and took a few secret manuals with higher energy. They immediately flipped through the contents inside. These are indeed the secret manuals of the Moon of the Void. They are complete secret manuals. These secret manuals will be of great benefit to our Dragon Roar Forbidden Land. An elder exclaimed excitedly as he read the contents inside. They are indeed real. These should be the top-notch cultivation secret manuals of the Moon of the Void. These secret manuals and sword techniques are incomparably precious. If we have another treasure land, we can build another powerful forbidden land. The third elder was also excited as he read. The value of these things was immeasurable to their forbidden land. He even felt that it would be great if he could exchange the special treasures he had given Wang Xian for one of these top-notch manuals. According to the records of the Forbidden Land, the Void Moon, all of their secret manuals are placed in the 10,000 Laws Chamber behind the Moon Tower. It seems that he entered the 10,000 Laws Chamber. It's not that the 10,000 Laws Chamber is enveloped by a powerful array. Isn't the Dharma repository shrouded by a powerful array? One of the elders asked in surprise. That Wang Xian is not simple. He must have some secrets on him. He appeared out of nowhere, and we can't find any information on him. An attendant spoke up and thought for a moment. Elder, should we be on our guard? No need. No force would be willing to take out such precious treasures just to enter our Dragon Roar Forbidden Land. The third elder shook his head immediately. The treasures that Wang Xian had taken out were too precious. To enter their dragon roar forbidden land, they had expended so much. No other holy land would be so generous. If they were so generous, it would be very easy to destroy the dragon roar forbidden land. That's true. Maybe he really has his eyes on it. An elder at the side nodded in agreement. He looked at Long Yinin leisurely with a smile of a mischievous old man. This made Long Yinin's face even redder. She looked helpless. But when she thought of how Wang Xian had saved her twice, her heart began to beat faster. She was the saint of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land, and her brother was also the saint of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land. In the entire Dragon Roar Forbidden Land, no one was more outstanding than the siblings. As a result, she did not have any special feelings for other members of the opposite sex. This was because she was outstanding, and so was her brother. Moreover, even if it was the saints of other holy lands, she would not take a fancy to them easily. But Wang Xian had saved her life twice. His talent and strength were stronger than hers, and it gave her a strange feeling. Could it be like what grandfather and brother said, that he has taken a fancy to me? Otherwise, she was a little confused, and her imagination ran wild. Chapter 3955. Long Yinin was a little confused. This was the first time in her hundreds of millions of years of cultivation. Yes, Long Yinin had lived for hundreds of millions of years. However, he spent most of his time cultivating in seclusion. A simple session of seclusion could last millions of years, and the longest one could last tens of millions of years. For experts like them, hundreds of millions of years was equivalent to a dozen years for mortals. The only calamity they faced was the cataclysm. If they could survive the cataclysm, the lifespan of experts like them would be more than 30 billion years. Judging from such a lifespan, she was still young. Very young. Her mind was running wild. She couldn't stop her thoughts. Otherwise, how could these priceless treasures and cultivation methods be explained? Wang Xian followed the sixth elder around the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land. The two returned. The third elder and the rest had prepared a sumptuous meal. These dishes were not only delicious, but also contained powerful energy. This was the first time Wang Xian had tasted the delicacies of the sword and sorcery universe. It was indeed unique. However, what surprised him was that Long Yinin would look over at him from time to time. She looked at him with a hint of shyness and curiosity in her eyes. This made him feel that something was wrong. Set a time to hold my saint's grand ceremony. The third elder looked at the surrounding elders and said after the group enjoyed the food. Let Xiao Xian decide the time. An elder pondered for a moment and said, That's true. The third elder nodded his head and looked at Wang Xian. Xiao Xian, take a look at the time and decide on an auspicious day to hold your saint's ceremony. This is a huge event for the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground. Third elder, there's no hurry. How about 10,000 years later? Wang Xian hesitated for a moment before replying. He wanted to wait for Enlai to come again. At that time, he could give it a try. If the disciples of the Dragon Palace could come to this universe, it would be of great benefit to the development of the Dragon Palace. Now, the disciples of the Dragon Palace in the Nine Origins universe no longer dared to move around there. If they had a base in the Sword and Sorcery universe, it would be of great benefit to the Dragon Palace. The Forbidden Land of the Void Moon happened to be a good treasure ground. It could be used as a nest for the disciples of Dragon Palace to cultivate. 10,000 years? No problem. The third elder nodded. 10,000 years was only the time it took for a simple closed-door cultivation. In the following days, Yin Hao, and Xiao Xian, the three of you will continue to cultivate at Xingyu's place. Before that, Yin, you will bring Xiao Xian to our Dragon Roar Forbidden Grounds 10,000 Laws Pavilion. Xiao Xian can choose from the space attribute sword techniques and secret manuals there. If it's spatial connate cardinal treasures, our Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground also has them. You can choose any two of them from there. As for cultivation resources, we'll distribute them according to the saint's standard. Sixth elder said to Longyin King Immortal and the rest. With a wave of his arm, a token flew into Long Yinin's hand. It's sixth grandfather. Long Yinin took the token and nodded. Alright, you three little fellows should communicate and get familiar with each other. The third elder smiled and waved his hand. Let's go, Wang Xian. I'll bring you to the 10,000 Laws Pavilion and Treasure Vault of our Roaring Dragon Forbidden Area to pick some sword techniques and weapons that you need. Long Yining said to Wang Xian. Wang Xian nodded his head and flew out with her. Seriously, she forgot about her younger brother so quickly. Long Yinhao was speechless when he saw his sister ignoring him. He moved and followed behind immediately. The 10,000 Laws Pavilion of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground was open to Wang Xian. There was only one top-notch space attribute sword technique. Wang Xian opened it and took a look. It would be of some use to him. In fact, Wang Xian had already memorized the secret manuals that he had obtained in the Moon of the Void. The top-notch secret manuals could not be copied. The concepts contained within could only be comprehended from the original secret manuals. However, Wang Xian's strength was too strong. Wang Xian could easily understand and master most of the spells. There were only a few top-notch spells that he had to ponder over. After fully comprehending them, Wang Xian could record these spells and sword techniques for the reference of the disciples of the Dragon Palace. In fact, these spells and sword techniques were only of reference value to the Sorcerer Dragon and the Succubus Dragon species. However, they were only for reference. After all, the Nine-Source universe also had its own cultivation system and unique characteristics. In terms of sword techniques, Roving Sword and the rest cultivated the top-notch Tianyuan sword technique of their universe. The sword techniques of the universe of swords and magic could only be used as a small reference. The gap between them and Tianyuan sword technique was still too huge. Wang Xian checked out the space sword techniques of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground and took 2 inborn cardinal treasures from the treasure vault. Such treatment was indeed top-notch in the entire Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground. Even the 5th or 6th order sovereigns of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground did not have such treatment. Wang Xian, let's return to the Sacred Moon to cultivate. Although there are treasured lands for cultivation in the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground, there are no treasured lands with space attributes. Moreover, the energy absorbed from treasured lands is reduced. It's best to cultivate in the Sacred Moon. Long Yining said to Wang Xian as they came out of the treasure vault. Sure. Wang Xian nodded his head. Subsequently, the three of them rushed towards the Moon of the Void. When they arrived at the 8th level of the Sacred Moon, Long Yining imparted to him the Forbidden Curse art. After fully mastering it, Wang Xian sat cross-legged on the magic stone and began his cultivation. This stunned Long Yining, who was beside him. What an idiot! All he knows is cultivation. She could not help but complain in her heart as she looked at Wang Xian helplessly. But soon, she sat cross-legged with a smile and began her cultivation. Time passed quickly while he was cultivating. The appointed time with Enlai arrived quickly. Wang Xian opened his eyes and looked around. On the 8th level, there were only him and Long Yining. Wang Xian waved his arm and shrouded himself with energy. Long Yining could only see that Wang Xian was still sitting cross-legged and cultivating. She could not see any other movements or changes. Wang Xian immediately set up a devil spirit altar in front of him. Greetings, Dragon King. Before long, Enlai appeared and Wang Xian nodded at him. Is there any situation in the Dragon Palace? Wang Xian asked as usual. Dragon King, everything is fine in the Dragon Palace. Enlai answered. All right, I'm going to conduct an experiment. Bring Roving Sword over now. Wang Xian instructed Enlai. He wanted to see if the universe breath soil was effective. Chapter 3956, Wang Wang. Within the Forbidden Land, Void Moon, Sacred Moon, Law Pavilion. Wang Xian, Enlai, and Roving Sword appeared. This was Wang Xian's real body. His Void Divine Dragon body was still cultivating in the 8th level of the Moon Pagoda. Roving Sword's arrival immediately caused a wave of energy to press down on his body. His expression changed slightly. This was the pressure from the Sword and Magic universe. Roving Sword's current strength had reached the 3rd Order Universe Lord Realm. His realm wasn't very high, mainly because the dragon guards had just obtained the Tianyuan sword technique not long ago. To reach the Third Order Universe Lord realm in a few million years was already very terrifying. Of course, this was also due to the Heart of Faith. Dragon King, my level has been suppressed by 3 levels. Roving Sword reported to Wang Xian. Wang Xian nodded. With a wave of his arm, a handful of growing soil appeared in his hand. Roving Sword, absorb it and see if there are any changes. Wang Xian said to Roving Sword. Roving Sword nodded and immediately took it. With a thought, he began to absorb it. As the growing soil entered his body bit by bit, he was slightly taken aback. Dragon King, I can sense that the rejection of me by this universe has decreased significantly. Soon, Roving Sword's eyes lit up as he reported to Wang Xian. Wang Xian's eyes also lit up. This growing soil is in your body. Are there any repercussions? Can you expel it in the future? For the time being, there are no repercussions. The growing soil is in my body and doesn't affect my body at all. I can expel it, but it's very fast. Moreover, the growing soil that is expelled will dissipate immediately. Roving Sword felt it and said, "All right, that's enough." Wang Xian revealed a smile. With a wave of his arm, he took out more growing soil. Absorb it until the universe suppresses and absorbs you. Then stop. Yes, Dragon King. Roving Sword answered immediately and began to absorb in large amounts. Wang Xian waited quietly at the side and looked at the growing soil in the space ring. There was a lot of it, at least dozens of tons. Other than the growing soil, there were a few other special treasures. Some of them weren't of much use to Wang Xian. The corpse of an expert from another universe, a spiritual corpse. From Wang Xian's senses, this spiritual corpse was the body of a Ninth Order Universe Lord Realm expert. It also contained a tremendous amount of energy. To Wang Xian, this might not be of much use. But to Ming Shusheng, it was definitely a great opportunity and treasure. Ming Sha-sheng, one of the 7 Mad Devils, was an expert of the Nether clan. This soul corpse was very useful to him. In addition to this corpse, there was also a special treasure from another universe that contained majestic energy. Wang Xian was more familiar with this energy. The power of faith. However, Wang Xian could not use the treasures of the faith universe. The infinite space jar was useless to Wang Xian. The last treasure was the broken piece of wood. It was a part of the spatial bridge, something that seemed to be of the wood element. Wang Xian wasn't sure if the broken wood was useful, but he could let Enlai bring it back to the Dragon Palace to take a look. Let's see if the progenitor tree has any reaction. Wang Xian stood by the side and observed Roving Sword's absorption speed quietly. Buzz! More than 10 minutes later, Wang Xian sensed that the suppression from the sword and magic universe on Roving Sword had vanished completely. Roving Sword also opened his eyes, revealing a hint of surprise. Very good. Wang Xian looked at the amount of breath soil absorbed by Roving Sword and revealed a smile. He had only absorbed a few kilograms of breath soil of the universe and eliminated the repulsive force from this universe. In that case, the amount of breath soil in his hands was enough to attract tens of thousands of disciples to this sword and magic universe. Wang Xian was deep in thought. Currently, the starry universe was the main activity ground of the Dragon Palace. However, the starry universe was still suppressed by the universe. Only Lan Qingyue and Xiao Lan were not suppressed. However, Lan Qingyue and Xiao Lan did not dare to step into the infinite starry universe. This caused the Dragon Palace to be greatly restricted in obtaining resources. Needless to say, the 9-source universe. Currently, the development of the Dragon Palace had gradually reached a bottleneck. And the sword and magic universe was a good place for the Dragon Palace to develop. It could attract tens of thousands of disciples of the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian was even prepared to build a Forbidden Land here. The name could be Void Dragon Forbidden Land. It would represent the Void Divine Dragon Sanctuary. He had already thought of the location of the Forbidden Land. It would be here. The Forbidden Land, Void Moon, would be changed to the Forbidden Land, Void Dragon Forbidden Land. Not bad, not bad. At the thought of this, a faint smile appeared on his face. Enlai, Bring 10,000 dragon guards and 10 black dragon species. Wang Xian looked at Enlai and immediately gave his orders. Yes, Dragon King. Enlai nodded and his figure instantly disappeared. The dragon guards were the best choice to come to the sword and magic universe. This was because they cultivated swordsmanship. It could be verified with the cultivation of the sword and magic universe. The other 10 black dragon species were to guard the Void Dragon Forbidden Land in the future. The Void Dragon Forbidden Land needed at least some experts who could hold the fort. Of course, Wang Xian had his own ideas. He would be the master of the Void Dragon Forbidden Land in the future. His main body would always be here while his Void Divine Dragon body would be in the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land. With a decision in mind, Wang Xian began to plan. An hour later, 10,000 dragon guards and 10 black dragon species arrived. Wang Xian immediately got them to absorb the breath soil of the universe. Buzz buzz buzz. Buzz buzz buzz. When all the disciples of Dragon Palace had absorbed the energy, they looked at Wang Xian and awaited his orders. For now, you will cultivate here. After I take control of this place, I will build a forbidden land in this universe. It will be called the Void Dragon Forbidden Land. This will also be a restriction for our Dragon Palace in this universe. In the future, you can also go to this universe to cultivate and look for opportunities. Wang Xian ordered them. Yes, Dragon King. The disciples of Dragon Palace answered immediately. All right, let's continue our cultivation. Wang Xian nodded and ordered Enlai to bring him to the 8th level of the Moon Pagoda. Back in the body of the Void Divine Dragon, Wang Xian continued his cultivation. A few hundred years later, there was a wave of energy coming from the side. Wang Xian opened his eyes and saw Long Yinin, who was practicing her spiritual arts. Why aren't you cultivating? Wang Xian hesitated for a moment before asking her. I'm about to break through if I continue cultivating. I can't break through anymore. I have to start practicing my spiritual arts to increase my combat experience. Long Yinin said to Wang Xian. Once she broke through, she would reach the level 8 universe venerable realm. In that case, her combat strength among the level 8 universe venerables wouldn't be too strong. At that time, it would basically be impossible for her to fight against 2 or 3 people who were stronger than her. Chapter 3957, Break Through. Wang Xian naturally knew what she was thinking when he heard her. Here, everything was for the sake of reaching the top. This didn't mean that the stronger one was, the higher one could reach the top. But it meant that the stronger one was, the higher one could reach the next level. As for Long Yinin suppressing her strength, there was no need at all. Because to reach the top, one had to have the strength of a pinnacle universe supremacy and accumulate strength for a long time. Only then would one have the chance to reach the top. Secondly, this place belonged to him. It belonged to the Dragon Palace. He had already seen this place as his. Huh. Long Yinin looked at him in surprise. To reach the top, one has to accumulate strength. It's impossible to have the strength to reach the top with the accumulation of a small realm. Only when you reach the pinnacle universe supremacy will you have this possibility. So if you don't suppress your breakthrough, it's impossible for you to reach the top. Wang Xian explained to her. Is that so? Long Yinin nodded thoughtfully. What do you think? Wang Xian looked at her and smiled. You should be able to sense where your limit is. That's true. It's already difficult for me to reach the 8th level. It'll be even more difficult to reach the 12th level. It's impossible. Long Yinin mumbled. In that case, I have to reach the pinnacle universe supremacy first? She looked at Wang Xian. Yes, there's no need to suppress it now. Wang Xian nodded. The energy here is abundant. It'll only take 1 to 2 million years to reach the pinnacle universe supremacy. At that time, you can raise your strength to the next level. Yeah. Long Yinin nodded and listened to Wang Xian. She looked at him and asked, Wang Xian, have you reached the pinnacle universe supremacy now? Yeah, although I've reached it, I still need to accumulate strength for a long time to reach the top. Wang Xian nodded without concealing anything. Doesn't that mean you have a chance to reach the 12th level and control this place? Long Yinin looked at him with a tinge of admiration. That's possible, but it's not very likely, Wang Xian said with a smile. He wasn't telling the truth. You'll definitely succeed and reach the top. Keep it up. Long Yining smiled and shook his fist at him. Wang Xian smiled. Let's continue our cultivation. Okay. Long Yining nodded and immediately began his breakthrough. Wang Xian sat cross-legged and began his cultivation. Wang Xian, it's the appointed time. It's the day of your conferring ceremony. Thousands of years passed in the blink of an eye as Long Yining shouted at Wang Xian. Have we arrived? Wang Xian opened his eyes and nodded. All right then, let's head over. The Holy Sun's conferring ceremony is a very important event in our Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land. When the time comes, our Lord will personally confer the title and hold a banquet for 10 days to celebrate. The two of them moved and flew out. Is it that grand? Wang Xian looked at her in astonishment. That's for sure. You should know that saints and saintesses represent the most outstanding generation in a forbidden land. The saints and saintesses in our Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land can cultivate to the 7th Order Universe Sovereign Realm at the very least. Many of our elders were once saints and saintesses. Long Yining explained to her, therefore, every conferring ceremony of a saint and saintess is very grand. Of course, our Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land has a generation every billion years. In other words, we only confer new saints and saintesses every billion years. I see. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly. The two of them flew out of the sacred moon. At the entrance, the experts of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land were already waiting. This time, the experts waiting were two elders of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land. One of them was the 6th elder whom Wang Xian had met before. Xiao Xian, since the last time you came to our Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land, some of the surrounding sacred lands and forbidden lands have gotten some information. As the demon-like son of the space swordsman, you can easily reach the 8th level of the Moon Pagoda. We are worried that other sacred lands and forbidden lands will do something to you. The 6th elder said to Wang Xian with a smile. Thank you, 6th elder and 10th elder, for coming here personally. Wang Xian heard them and smiled. He immediately sensed them. That's what we should do. You have no idea how envious the other sacred lands and forbidden lands were when they learned that Xiao Xian had joined our Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land. The 6th elder laughed heartily. With a wave of his arm, he led them away immediately. Today, Wang Xian's reputation had spread far and wide in the surrounding areas, including the sacred college of the various sacred lands and forbidden lands. Everyone knew that within the Moon Pagoda, there was a mysterious space attribute swordsman who had easily reached the 8th level of the Moon Pagoda. He had suppressed a group of saints and saintesses. His talent was extremely terrifying. Most importantly, he was of the space attribute. In the sword and sorcery universe, there was also a saying, of the 10 major attributes, space is the king. The top-notch existence of the space attribute could challenge experts of other attributes who were of a higher level. With such talents and strength, coupled with the space attribute, Wang Xian's reputation had spread far and wide among the various sacred lands and forbidden lands. After he joined the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land, he had caused quite a stir. Under the guidance of the two elders, Wang Xian and the rest arrived at the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land. Walalala. When they arrived at the island of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land, the sound of a massive waterfall could be heard. However, in the middle of the waterfall that fell from the sky, there were 4 words, water flow, that were unusually eye-catching and could be seen clearly from afar. The Saint's Ceremony. The main island of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land in front of them looked even more festive than the last time they were here. Compared to the previous time, the number of people below the heavenly peak had increased by several hundred times. At a glance, there were at least hundreds of millions of people gathered there. There were also a large number of experts and disciples floating in the air. There were also sounds of fighting. How lively! Wang Xian looked over and sighed with emotion. Compared to this place, the Dragon Palace was much more deserted. There were only a few million Dragon Palace disciples. Below our Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land, there are hundreds of magical nations. Some of these magical nations were established by the experts and disciples who walked out of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land, and some are under our protection. Wang Xian, now that you have become a saint, they will definitely come to pay their respects and send you some gifts. Long Yining smiled and introduced to Wang Xian. From now on, you will have unparalleled authority in any magical nation under the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land. Wang Xian nodded slightly, a tinge of envy flashing in his eyes. The Dragon Palace was strong, but it could not even return to the Nine Origins universe. However, one day, Wang Xian would let the Dragon Palace stand upright in the universe and be worshipped by all races. Chapter 3958. Swish, swish, swish. Wang Xian and Long Yining flew towards the sky peak. The two elders watched with smiles. A large number of experts and disciples gathered in front of the sky peak. At the edge of the sky peak, there was an empty space. In front, there were luxurious seats. There were flags on the left and right sides of the seats. The words "Saint" were written on them. Sister, Brother Wang Xian. When Wang Xian and Long Yining flew over, a voice was heard. Long Yinhao quickly came over. Behind him, there were hundreds of disciples of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground. All eyes were on Wang Xian. This was the first time they saw Wang Xian. However, they had heard of Wang Xian's name like a thunderclap. He had suppressed more than a dozen saints of the Forbidden Grounds and was even stronger than their saints and saintesses. There was no doubt about his strength and talent. Wang Xian saw Long Yinhao and nodded. Greetings, Saint Wang Xian. From behind, a group of disciples flew over and immediately cupped their fists towards Wang Xian. You're welcome. Wang Xian waved at them and nodded with a smile. Brother Wang Xian, come over. Let me introduce you. Long Yinhao introduced the surrounding disciples to Wang Xian enthusiastically. Those who were able to follow him were the elites of this generation of disciples in the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground. They were the future pillars of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground. Wang Xian got to know them one by one. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Before long, beams of light lit up. From within the sky peak, figures with powerful auras flew over. One by one, the figures landed on the seats in front of them with smiles on their faces. These figures were all Fifth-Order Universe sovereigns and above. Come over, Xiao Xian. Let me introduce you to the elders and deacons. The third elder flew over and said to Wang Xian with a loud laugh. All right, third elder. Wang Xian nodded, looked at the elders and deacons, and cupped his fists. Greetings, elders and deacons. Wang Xian cupped his fists. Not at all. Saint Wang Xian has outstanding talent and will definitely become the top expert of the continent in the future. The group of deacons immediately returned the greeting with smiles. The status of a deacon in the forbidden area was inferior to that of a saint or saintess. Come, Xiao Xian. Let me introduce you to our great elder. The third elder began his introduction to Wang Xian. The great elder of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land was a white-haired old woman holding a walking stick. Child, not bad. You were able to join our Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground and bring so many treasures. It is our honor. As the great elder, I cannot be stingy. Take it. The great elder waved his arm and a human-shaped water droplet floated in front of Wang Xian. When Wang Xian saw it, he was taken aback. This human-shaped water droplet was a treasure that could revive. He was stunned. This kind of treasure was relatively precious in the sword and magic universe, comparable to a primordial cardinal treasure. Even if you have such a treasure, you should still take it. The great elder smiled and said to Wang Xian, Thank you, first elder. Wang Xian did not stand on ceremony and took it over. Since the great elder has given it to me, as the second elder, I can't fall behind either. Although it's not as precious as the great elders, it's not weak either. 90 void swords. Its power is comparable to that of a primordial cardinal treasure. Space attribute, it's just right for you, Xiao Xian. The second elder waved his arm and sharp swords floated around Wang Xian. The 90 void swords were 90 sharp swords of the spatial attribute, each of which was a connate spiritual treasure. But this was a set, and its power was comparable to that of a normal connate cardinal treasure. Thank you, second elder. When Wang Xian saw the sharp sword, his eyes lit up. Now, Wang Xian's strength had reached the pinnacle universe venerable realm, and the Tianyuan sword technique had reached the most crucial point. That was sword control. The most terrifying and core aspect of the Tianyuan sword technique was the sword tomb. Sword mounds were built one after another, instantly erupting with terrifying might. This sword catacomb required Wang Xian to build with his energy. In the past, he needed to teleport or fly to another place and then lay it down. But now, he only needed to control the sharp swords, and he could make use of them to lay down sword mounds around him, forming a terrifying offensive power. Compared to the past, it was even more terrifying. Originally, this required one to reach the Universe Lord realm to cultivate. But because of Wang Xian's uniqueness, a pinnacle universe venerable realm could already do some of it. These 90 connate spiritual treasure space attribute sharp swords were extremely useful to him. Ha, Xiao Xian, you guys are the future pillars of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground. Come to take this. Subsequently, the third elder also took out his treasures. Every elder gave Wang Xian some treasures and cultivation resources. Subsequently, the group of attendants also began to give Wang Xian. This was also the tradition of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground. This was also the reason why the saints and saintesses were so powerful. Of course, to become a saint or saintess, it wasn't based on one's background. Just because one's grandfather was an elder didn't mean that one could become a saint or saintess. It was based on one's true aptitude and talent. For this, each forbidden ground and sacred ground had their own set of tests. Some universe venerables at level 6 or level 7 could become a saint. Some disciples at level 9 universe venerable realm couldn't become a saint. Not long after the group of elders and attendants finished giving out various treasures and resources, an azure blue brilliance shrouded the entire sky. An old figure suddenly appeared in the sky above. When everyone saw this figure, their faces instantly revealed awe and respect. The group of elders and deacons immediately straightened their bodies and faced that figure. Greetings, Lord of the Forbidden Ground. Greetings, Lord of the Forbidden Ground. Hundreds of millions of experts and disciples of the Forbidden Ground hurriedly bowed and shouted loudly. Their voices reverberated throughout the entire island. No need to be reserved during the saint ceremony. The Lord of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground said plainly, his voice reaching everyone's ears. Wang Xian looked at the Lord of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground with a tinge of curiosity in his eyes. The Lord of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground was an old lady. Yes, a woman. This was something he hadn't expected. Wang Xian, right? Not bad. At this time, Wang Xian sensed that the Lord of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground was looking at him and nodded with a smile. His eyes were filled with admiration. Thank you for your appreciation, Lord of the Forbidden Ground. Wang Xian cupped his hands and expressed his gratitude. Space attribute, easily able to fight across levels. It's my honor, Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground. Take a seat. The Lord of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground said with a smile. She looked at the group of elders and attendants and said softly, "It's the Lord of the Forbidden Ground." The group of elders and attendants immediately sat at the front. Chapter 3959. A group of elders and attendants sat down. Wang Xian felt a wave of energy shrouding him. In the next moment, he appeared on a stage in front of him. The figure of the Master of the Forbidden Ground also appeared in front of him. A special crown floated in front of her. The outstanding crown of the saint. This time, after in-house saintess and saint, our Dragon Roar Forbidden Land will welcome our second saint. He is also the most talented saint. His name is Wang Xian. Today, I will be the saint of our Dragon Roar Forbidden Land. All the experts and disciples of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land obey the orders of the saint. The saint represents the future, reputation, and prestige of our Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground. No blasphemy or offense is allowed. The master of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground said, his voice echoing above the entire island. Today is the coronation. The master of the Forbidden Ground continued. She picked up the outstanding crown of the saint and placed it on Wang Xian's head. Greetings, Saint Wang Xian. Greetings, Saint Wang Xian. In the surrounding area of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground, all the experts and disciples below the level of deacon bowed and shouted loudly. Seeing this scene, Wang Xian couldn't help but feel a sense of belonging. This kind of ceremony, this kind of importance, even though he had just joined, had a very good impression of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land. Thank you, everyone. In the future, with me around, the reputation of the younger generation of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground will not fall. Wang Xian replied plainly to the experts and disciples of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground. The reputation of the younger generation will not fall. Good. The master of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground smiled and nodded. He looked at Wang Xian and said, according to the rules of our Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground, the saint has to show his strength and challenge those of a higher level. Xiao Xian, are you ready? Sure. Wang Xian nodded his head and looked ahead. In front of him, there were thousands of experts below the Fifth Order Universe Sovereign Realm. Let a First Order Universe Sovereign of the Space attribute spar with Saint Wang Xian. The master of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground looked down and said, this wasn't to make things difficult for Wang Xian, but the process of the coronation. Moreover, they all knew that Wang Xian had reached the 8th level of the Moon Pagoda. It was a piece of cake for him to challenge those of a higher level. Lord of the Forbidden Grounds, let me spar with Saint Wang Xian. A middle-aged man moved and came to the front. He bowed to the master of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground and Wang Xian. Sure. The master of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground waved his arm and a wave of energy enveloped Wang Xian and the middle-aged man. Then he retreated to the side. Saint Wang Xian, please enlighten me. The middle-aged man bowed to Wang Xian again and said, a sharp sword appeared in his hand. He was also a spatial swordsman. You go first. Wang Xian gestured to the middle-aged man. Saint Wang Xian, why don't you make the first move? The middle-aged man smiled and gestured to Wang Xian. If I make the first move, you won't have a chance. Take this. Wang Xian looked at the middle-aged man and spoke with a smile. With a wave of his arm, sword 99 appeared around him and disappeared instantly. Upon hearing Wang Xian's confident words, the middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and filled his body with the power of space. Naturally, he had heard of Wang Xian's achievements and knew that he could fight beyond his level. Moreover, he could fight against 3 who were stronger than him. However, these words sounded a little too arrogant to the middle-aged man. Wang. However, in the next second, he narrowed his eyes. 90 sharp swords teleported and came to a position around him. The sharp swords trembled slightly. The surrounding space began to change violently. The middle-aged man sensed the changes and narrowed his eyes. He could feel that the void around him contained great terror. It was as though terrifying demonic beasts were in deep slumber. When the sharp swords attacked him, he felt all the demonic beasts awakening and pouncing towards him. This made his expression change drastically as he quickly waved the sharp swords in his hands. A giant sword circled around him and slashed at him. Bam bam bam. However, in the next moment, the power of space that he gathered with all his might collapsed. Those 90 sharp swords continued to attack him. Bam bam. The 90 sharp swords penetrated the defense of the master of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground around him. This defense represented a life. With his defense broken, the 90 sharp swords floated around him and surrounded him tightly. His pupils constricted slightly as he revealed a horrified expression. He couldn't help but gasp. I didn't expect Saint Wang Xian to be so terrifying to kill me in an instant. His body trembled as he cupped his hands towards Wang Xian. Your space sword isn't pure. Your influence on the surrounding space is too weak. You need to strengthen it. Wang Xian smiled at the middle-aged man. As he finished his sentence, the 90 sharp swords returned to him. With a wave of his arm, he kept them. I've learned something. The middle-aged man pondered for a moment before nodding his head heavily. The sword that he loved was indeed not pure. This was related to his proficiency in swordsmanship. However, when he was pointed out by Saint Wang Xian in front of him, he was also shocked. This saint before him was too terrifying. Long Yinhao, the saint, couldn't be compared to him. Brother Wang Xian is awesome. Isn't this too strong? Long Yinhao's shocked exclamation came from behind. He widened his eyes and couldn't help but stand up. This was the first time he saw Wang Xian in action, killing an existence one level higher than him in an instant. Moreover, he only used 90 ordinary innate spiritual treasure swords. He didn't use any other innate cardinal treasures. What did this mean? He, Long Yinhao, could step into the 6th and 7th level of the Moon Pagoda. He used the forbidden curse art with all his might. That was achieved by piling up a large number of innate cardinal treasures. However, Wang Xian didn't have any powerful treasures to kill an existence one level higher than him in an instant. Too terrifying. He's really strong and terrifying. What an insane attack. The group of elders and deacons in front narrowed their eyes when they saw this scene. Some deacons and elders couldn't help but stand up. Naturally, they had seen the battle just now very clearly, including all the energy fluctuations. They naturally knew that the middle-aged man didn't hold back at all. Under such circumstances, he was easily killed in an instant. It could only be said that Wang Xian's strength was too terrifying. It can't be. He killed an existence one level higher than him in an instant? The Pinnacle Universe Supremacy killed an expert at the First Order Universe Sovereign Realm in an instant. Moreover, he didn't use any powerful treasures? Isn't this too easy and casual to fight someone above his level? At this time, the hundreds of millions of experts and disciples couldn't help but exclaim when they saw this scene. Chapter 3960. Previously, because of the presence of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground Master, all the experts and disciples were well behaved and did not dare to make any noise. However, when they saw Wang Xian easily kill the First Order Universe Sovereign Space Swordsman, all the experts and disciples could not hold back. Even the elders and deacons exclaimed in surprise. His strength was too terrifying. The space attribute was known as the King of the 10 Attributes. Powerful space attribute swordsmen could fight above their level. Now, this Holy Sun Wang Xian could easily kill a First Order Universe Sovereign Realm Space Dominator. Could he fight against Second Order Universe Sovereigns and experts of other attributes? It was not impossible, because the space attribute was powerful here. Very good. The Master of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Land also had a look of shock in his eyes as he spoke in a heavy tone. The strength that Wang Xian had demonstrated had indeed shocked her. The saint and saintess of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground, Long Yinin and Long Yinhao. They could now fight above their level. However, they were fighting above their level, defeating someone stronger than them, and if they fought for a long time, they would be able to achieve victory. But Wang Xian was different. He killed them in an instant. An instant kill without any resistance. And the most important thing was the space attribute. The space attribute was the king of the 10 attributes, but it had a huge weakness. It was difficult to cultivate. Space sword techniques and spiritual arts were rare. Otherwise, all the experts and disciples would have cultivated the space attribute. Among 100 First Order Universe Sovereigns, there were only 1 or 2 experts with the space attribute. In addition, on the Sword and Sorcerer continent, the third-ranked force specialized in the space attribute. Wang Xian's combat strength was really terrifying. Thank you for your praise, Forbidden Ground Master. Wang Xian smiled and nodded when he heard the praises around him. Very good. From today onwards, Shao Xian, you will be the saint of the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground. The Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground Master smiled with satisfaction and said, Greetings, Holy Sun Wang Xian. Holy Sun Wang Xian has suppressed his peers. Greetings, Holy Sun Wang Xian. Holy Sun Wang Xian has suppressed his peers. As the Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground Master's voice fell, all the experts and disciples bowed respectfully again. Wang Xian stood in the middle and smiled. Continue with the rest of the chosen sage ceremony. After saying that, the dragon roar Forbidden Land's lord moved and instantly left. All the rulers of the magic nations, come forth and greet the saint. After the master of the roaring dragon Forbidden Land left, a deacon immediately spoke. Brother Wang Xian, take a seat of honor. Long Yinhao smiled and said to Wang Xian from behind. Wang Xian nodded his head and sat in the middle. Greetings, Saint Wang Xian from the Dragon Descendants Magic Nation. At this moment, the kings of the various magic nations flew over and greeted Wang Xian respectfully. These kings were high and mighty in their magic kingdom. However, there was still a huge gap between them and the saint. A single word from the saint could even change the king. The kings of the magic nation weren't weak. They all had the strength of a universe ruler. Every king would offer treasures to the emperor. There were all kinds of treasures, and the worst one was worth more than a dozen connate numinous treasures. Wang Xian sat there and accepted the gifts from hundreds of kings of magic nations one by one. It took a few hours just to receive the gifts. Prepare the banquet. Then, the next project continued. Prepare the banquet and celebrate. In addition, the disciples of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land were sparring and performing. Wang Xian also waved his hand and took out the treasures sent by the kings of the magic nations as the wager. This made the entire saint ceremony unusually lively. The process of preparing the banquet took a few days. Wang Xian, next is the guidance. The saint is talented, and his thinking and techniques are naturally better than the ordinary disciples. The saint is giving guidance to the other disciples to increase his prestige. The third process was guidance. In order to build up the prestige of the saint faster, the saint would give guidance. To guide the ordinary disciples in their cultivation. Sure. Wang Xian nodded his head. He was good at giving guidance to some disciples in their cultivation. After all, the strength of Wang Xian's original body was there. Disregarding other things, even the founder of the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Land might not be as good as Wang Xian in guiding disciples in their cultivation. After all, Wang Xian was a 9 origins divine dragon and was proficient in 9 attributes. In addition to the void divine dragon body, he would have 10 attributes. Next, I'll be preaching and imparting techniques. Any disciple can come up and ask for guidance. Wang Xian said plainly as he sat there. His voice was heard by every disciple. Greetings to the saint. Saint, I'm Long Yitian, a rank 3 universe venerable. I would like to seek guidance from the saint on swordsmanship. A disciple with a space attribute flew up and bowed respectfully. All right, show me your swordsmanship. Wang Xian nodded his head and gestured to him. Yes, Sir Saint. Long Yitian nodded his head and immediately began to perform the space sword technique. Wang Xian watched quietly with sparkling eyes. Tianyuan swordsmanship had no attributes. This kind of swordsmanship that led straight to the Tianyuan realm could be cultivated by any attribute. Wang Xian, who was cultivating the Tianyuan swordsmanship, watched Long Yitian perform the swordsmanship. It was like an adult watching a child learning how to walk. Your swordsmanship level is too low. You lack loopholes and techniques. I'll modify it for you. Feel it with your heart. Wang Xian flicked his finger and a wave of space power surged into Long Yitian's body. This space power immediately controlled him to perform a swordsmanship. Ha! Long Yitian widened his eyes and felt it with his heart. He was shocked. Long Yinin, is there no high-level space attribute swordsmanship in the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground? Long Yitian felt it while Wang Xian looked at Long Yinin and asked directly. We don't have that in the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground. There aren't many spatial cultivators in the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground to begin with. Most of them are of the water attribute. Long Yinin shook his head and answered honestly. No wonder Long Yitian couldn't even fight above his level with his swordsmanship. Wang Xian shook his head and looked around. I have a space sword technique here. All space attribute disciples, come over. Huh? Is Saint Wang Xian going to impart swordsmanship to us? That's great, that's great. Thank you, Saint Wang Xian. The disciples of the space element revealed looks of excitement and immediately flew over. Even some experts who had reached the Universe Lord realm hesitated before flying over. Saint Wang Xian, we don't have many space sword techniques in the Forbidden Ground and their levels are relatively low. Thank you, Saint Wang Xian, for imparting your swordsmanship today. A Fourth Order Universe Lord realm space swordsman, who was also a deacon, cupped his fists and thanked Wang Xian. Chapter 3961. It's nothing. Wang Xian waved his hand at them. With a thought, he condensed every move in his mind. In front of him, a small person was condensed, containing strong spatial power. He waved his arm, and the small person flew forward. Practice and comprehend it. Wang Xian said directly. The small person in front of him began to execute the sword technique. The group of spatial attribute swordsmen focused their attention and immediately began to cultivate and comprehend it. As the small person danced, the eyes of the spatial attribute swordsmen turned colder and colder. Their faces lit up with excitement. This is a spatial sword technique that is just below the pinnacle. At the back, the group of elders and experts focused their attention when they saw this. Technique condensed into technique. Wang Xian can actually condense an advanced sword technique into a technique. How terrifying is our Wang Xian's comprehension of spatial sword technique? Wang Xian must have at least mastered a powerful pinnacle spatial sword technique. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to do this. Technique condensed into technique, and it's a spatial attribute advanced sword technique. In our Dragon Roar Forbidden Ground, only I, the founder, can do it. Even the master of our Forbidden Ground can't do it. The group of elders was filled with shock. Technique condensed into technique. Technique represented sword technique. As long as one could fully comprehend a sword technique, one could form a powerful sword technique of his own. It would be even more difficult to present one's own sword technique. Even if one could completely transform the sword technique into one's own sword technique, it would still be difficult to present the sword technique. Unless one had completely mastered an advanced sword technique and comprehended it as one's own sword technique. In that case, one could condense mid-level sword technique into technique. There was only one possibility for Wang Xian to be able to condense an advanced sword technique into technique. He had mastered a pinnacle sword technique. Be it sword technique manuals or magic books, they were exceptionally precious on this continent. It was already insane for an expert to completely master a pinnacle magic book and transform it into his own magical technique. Most of them could only be achieved by experts above the 8th Order Universe Lord realm. However, their Wang Xian, who was merely at the pinnacle of the Universe Lord realm, could do it. This was too terrifying. Wang Xian heard the exclamations of the elders behind him, but he didn't understand what they meant. In particular, this was the first time he had heard of condensing technique into technique. Since he had mastered the Tianyuan sword art, it was a piece of cake for him to create his own advanced sword art. There was no pressure at all. In fact, if he were to painstakingly study it and spend millions of years, he could also create a top-notch sword art. After all, he only needed to use the basics of the Tianyuan sword technique. No wonder Big Brother Wang Xian is so insane. It's because he has mastered a top-notch sword technique. Demonic. Upon hearing the exclamations of the elders, Long Yinhao was also dumbfounded. Now, he finally understood why Wang Xian could kill an existence that was a level higher than him so easily. How much one knew about the law and what kind of law one had mastered would directly affect the combat power of the disciples of the Sword and Magic Continent. Beside him, Long Yinin was also looking at Wang Xian with sparkling eyes. His eyes were filled with admiration. Thank you, Lord Saint, for teaching me. The entire teaching process lasted for a full month. A month later, the group of space attribute experts and disciples thanked Wang Xian with reverence. They knew how terrifying it was to condense magic into skills. He Shaoqin. Wang Xian waved his hand nonchalantly before giving another pointer. Phew. A few days later, Wang Xian flew out of the venue of the saint ceremony and heaved a sigh of relief. Wang Xian, you're amazing. You've actually mastered a top-notch sword art. No wonder your combat power is so strong. Long Yining stood beside him and said with admiration, "I've only mastered 60% of the top-notch magic of our Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground." "Is that so?" Wang Xian chuckled and looked at him. Over the past few months, he had also gained some understanding of condensing magic into skills. "Don't you think? You're very insane. If I could master a top-notch magic secret manual at my current level, I should be able to fight 2 or 3 people above my level without using the forbidden curse." Long Yining said, "You don't know, the strength and ability you've displayed over the past few months have even shocked the group of elders. You're too amazing." She opened her mouth and continued. Wang Xian smiled and didn't care much about it. The Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground was just a transition. What he wanted to do now was to raise his strength to the pinnacle of the universe supremacy stage as soon as possible and control the Tower of the Moon. To establish the Void Dragon Forbidden Ground. "When I return to the Sacred Moon this time, I'm prepared to cultivate properly and strive to enter the 9th level." Given Wang Xian's current strength, entering the 9th level wouldn't be a problem. However, he wasn't in a hurry. The 8th level had sufficient energy. He was prepared to cultivate to the extreme and reach the top level in one go to control the Sacred Moon. "I've just broken through and am preparing to reach the limit as soon as possible." Long Yining nodded and said, "Brother Wang Xian, with your insane strength, you might be able to reach the top in the future." Long Yinhao interrupted from the side. "It's not that easy. On the 9th level, I'll have to deal with 4 people with a higher level than me. On the 10th level, there might be 5, 6 on the 11th level, and 7 on the 12th level. It's difficult." Wang Xian said plainly. Naturally, he wouldn't say he was confident. "Yinhao, you have to strive to reach the 8th level as soon as possible. Stop fooling around." Long Yining reminded Long Yinhao. "I'm not fooling around, sister. I'm cultivating seriously." Long Yinhao replied speechlessly. As the 3 of them conversed, they returned to the Sacred Moon through the teleportation formation. Subsequently, they stepped into the Moon Pagoda. When they arrived at the 8th level of the Moon Pagoda, Wang Xian and Long Yining immediately sat cross-legged and began cultivating. Time passed quickly. Wang Xian was also accumulating rapidly. After 500,000 years, with the help of this powerful treasure land, he had accumulated energy to the pinnacle of the universe supremacy. Given his understanding of the power of space, he could totally make a breakthrough. However, Wang Xian didn't. He continued to suppress his realm and continued cultivating. Time flew. Another 2 million years passed. The power of space in Wang Xian's body had also accumulated more and more. He opened his eyes slowly and revealed a faint smile. "It's about time to reach the top level," Wang Xian thought to himself. Looking around, he realized other saints and saintesses had arrived at the 8th level. Long Yinhao had also arrived successfully. Long Yinhao, I'm going to the 9th level." Wang Xian looked at them and said directly. Chapter 3962. Huh! On the 8th level of the Moon Pagoda, when Long Yinhao and Long Yinhao heard Wang Xian, they immediately opened their eyes in shock. "Big brother Wang Xian, are you confident of making it to the 9th level?" Long Yinhao asked Wang Xian with widened eyes. The other saints and saintesses around him also narrowed their eyes when they heard Wang Xian. They already knew Wang Xian very well. He had joined the Roaring Dragon Forbidden Ground and became a saint there. They all knew about his performance at the saint ceremony. All the saints and saintesses were shocked by his strength. In particular, the fact that he had 100% mastery of a top-notch sword technique was not kept a secret, and they knew about it. Now that they heard that he was going to the 9th level, the saints and saintesses didn't look too good. They were in a competitive relationship, but now there was someone from the same generation that made them feel despair and powerlessness. This made them feel a deep sense of defeat. "Yes." Wang Xian nodded. "I'll go up first. I'll wait for you guys at the 9th level." "Yeah." Long Yinhao nodded at Wang Xian with admiration. Wang Xian's figure gradually disappeared, and he entered the test space. In the next second, 4 First-Order Universe Sovereigns, spatial swordsmen, appeared in front of Wang Xian. Wang Xian smiled when he saw them. After 2 million years of accumulation, his strength had reached a terrifying level. Even Wu Sha and the rest back then couldn't compare to Wang Xian. After all, Wang Xian cultivated the Tianyuan sword technique. Against 4 First-Order Universe sovereigns, Wang Xian could end the battle within 5 minutes. However, Wang Xian didn't end the battle quickly. Instead, he slowly fought with the 4 First-Order Universe sovereigns. After 5 hours, he finally destroyed the 4 First-Order Universe sovereigns. The scene changed and he arrived at the 9th level. Big brother Wang Xian did it. He only used 5 hours. He's too strong. Long Yinhao exclaimed when he saw Wang Xian's success. The other saints and saintesses were also amazed when they saw it. He only used 5 hours to reach the 9th level. That was really terrifying. There aren't many treasures on the 9th level, and they aren't very valuable. Wang Xian came to the 9th floor, looked around, and revealed a smile. He put away the treasures and continued to challenge others. If he wanted to enter the 10th floor, he would have to face 5 First-Order Universe sovereigns. This time, it only took him 7 minutes. When he arrived at the 10th floor, he looked around and put away the treasures on the 10th floor. However, the moment Wang Xian stepped onto the 10th level, he was at the top of the Moon Pagoda. The 12th floor of the Moon Tower was completely different from the other 11 floors. There was only one magic stone here. Above the magic stone was an object that looked like a bathtub. An illusory figure was floating in the bathtub. The illusory figure emitted a powerful soul force. However, this illusory figure only had the appearance of an infant. The moment Wang Xian entered the 10th level, he opened his eyes. It was an infant's face, and its eyes were filled with endless coldness and wisdom. These weren't the eyes of an infant. Someone has actually entered the 10th floor. How many years has it been? I've been waiting for this day. Those who can enter the 10th floor are definitely extremely powerful geniuses. If I'm not mistaken, they should be the holy sons and holy maidens of other holy lands. An old and agitated voice came from the illusory infant's mouth. He looked down slowly, as though he could see through the space and see everything on the 10th level. Not bad, not bad. They should be the saints of a major force. What a perfect body. What a perfect body. The infant roared excitedly and slowly raised his palm. However, at this moment, he was slightly taken aback when he saw the figure below slowly turning illusory. You still want to continue? Are you confident? Great. The infant's eyes were filled with excitement. He kept his arm and watched quietly. However, when Wang Xian was about to challenge again, he squinted his eyes. He didn't stop, and his figure disappeared instantly. In that instant, he sensed someone spying on him. If Wang Xian's real body wasn't in his body, he wouldn't have sensed it. Interesting. There are living beings in this Moon Pagoda. Wang Xian thought to himself. In front of him, 6 First-Order Universe sovereigns appeared. Wang Xian moved and immediately began his attack. Wang Xian could still deal with 6 First-Order Universe sovereigns easily. Now, his strength was enough to deal with a space swordsman at the Second-Order Universe sovereign realm. The battle was over in 10 minutes. What kind of strength is this? What a terrifying ability to fight beyond his level. What sword technique is this? At the 12th level of the Moon Pagoda, the infant saw Wang Xian's battle, and his body trembled with excitement. His eyes were filled with craziness. Disbelief was written all over his face. I, the Nihility Tao, have waited for God knows how many years. To think that I would get such a precious gem and such a talented body. It's worth it. It's totally worth it. An agitated voice came from his mouth, and his eyes started to turn red. Given his strength, he can come to the top level directly. In that case, I'll wait for him here. I'll wait for this little cutie. The infant continued. His mouth cracked open, and his face was filled with a creepy smile. He muttered crazily, Come, my baby. Wang Xian entered the 11th level, and there was no change in his expression. He looked around and kept the treasures. His eyes flickered, and he sat cross-legged on the magic stone, continuing his challenge. 1. Soon, he arrived at the illusory space again, and faced 7 First-Order Universe sovereigns. The battle broke out instantly. This time, Wang Xian took only 10 minutes to finish him off easily. In the next second he arrived at the 12th level. The moment he appeared, he sensed a creepy infant staring at him from the side. Ah, great. You're just a universe supremacy, and you already have the strength of a second-order universe sovereign. Moreover, it's of the spatial attribute. You must have mastered a top-notch spatial sword technique, and you must have obtained the sword bowl of a space swordsman expert. Ha! Little brat, welcome to my embrace. The infant laughed maniacally. Because he had gotten into an internal conflict with a Grand Elder, in the end, he had used a forbidden spell to destroy his enemy, as well as himself. However, he had a special resurrection treasure. This special resurrection treasure could allow him to return to his soul state, so that he could once again try to take over the body. The Tao of Emptiness did not immediately attempt to possess him. Instead, he made a plan and then fell into a deep slumber. It was only when he reached the 10th floor that he was startled awake. His goal was to possess the bodies of saints and saintesses with powerful talents. However, he would never have expected Wang Xian to enter the sacred moon. In the entire sword and sorcery universe, only a few terrifying existences were stronger than Wang Xian. After absorbing the memories of the Tao of Emptiness, Wang Xian had a complete understanding of the Forbidden Land, the Moon of Void, and the entire sacred moon. He looked at the sorcerer's stone under the bathtub and revealed a smile. With a wave of his arm, this special bathtub treasure was moved to the side. With a wave of his arm, a stream of energy was injected into it. In the next second, a diamond-shaped sorcerer's stone flew out slowly. This sorcerer's stone had 10 sides, and each side contained a different attribute. This was the sacred moonstone that controlled the sacred moon. The entire sacred moon was a natural treasure land. This sacred moonstone was the key. After the death of the Tao of Emptiness, the imprint inside had disappeared. Wang Xian inserted his imprint into it. In an instant, he had complete control over the sacred moon. He could clearly sense all the living beings in the sacred moon. This included the group of experts from the Dragon Palace who were still cultivating in the convention repository. His mind shook. In an instant, all the disciples of the Dragon Palace appeared in front of him. Ha! Greetings, Dragon King. Roving Sword and the rest reacted immediately. Sensing the surrounding energy, they looked at Wang Xian and greeted him immediately. This place is under my complete control. From now on, this will be the base of the Dragon Palace in this universe. From now on, all of you will call yourselves disciples of the Void Dragon Forbidden Land. Wang Xian instructed them. Yes, Dragon King. Roving Sword and the rest answered immediately. All right, from now on, my real body will be guarding this place. My Void Divine Dragon body will leave this place to cultivate alone. Wang Xian nodded his head. With a thought, he separated himself from the Void Divine Dragon body. In the next second, the sacred moonstone in his hand floated around him and shone brightly. Following which, Wang Xian's Void Divine Dragon body was transported out. At the same time, the entire sacred moon shone with endless brilliance. Within the sacred moon, all the disciples in the moon pagoda felt a strong repulsive force. In an instant, they felt the surrounding scenery change, and they were instantly teleported to the outside. Ha! What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Why are we being transported out all of a sudden? All the supreme talents, saints and saintesses, spoke with shock as they looked at the sacred moon in front of them. Swish, swish, swish. At this moment, the experts from the sacred college, the sacred grounds, flew past Ollie quickly. They were also looking at the radiant sacred moon in shock. They were bewildered. There's a change in the sacred moon and all the disciples are being transported out? What's going on? An expert couldn't help but ask. But no one could answer his question. Wang Xian's Void Divine Dragon body also appeared outside. He looked at Long Yin Hao, and the rest and flew over. Wang Xian, you were also transported out? Long Yining saw Wang Xian and asked. Wang Xian nodded his head. Looking at the radiant sacred moon in front of him, his lips curved. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.